The big question surrounding vaccines seems to be at the moment, A, getting kind of a suitable candidate, but then the big question beyond that is how does it get scaled and scaled in sufficient quantities that are really going to make a difference? How are you going to achieve the latter part of that?
Hi, well, thanks. And first of all, let me say on behalf of GSK, a huge thank you to all the frontline healthcare workers battling this and the scientists, whether it be in our own companies or around the world, who are trying to stop it in its tracks. As you say, we've announced today what we think is an unprecedented partnership of two of the world's biggest companies in vaccines, leaders in vaccines, with proven technologies in pandemic vaccination, whether that be Sanofi's antigen or the adjuvant that we used successfully in the last pandemic. And exactly as you said, the key of an adjuvant is that it can be antigen sparing, so you can get to producing more volumes and therefore protecting more people sooner. And if we're successful, there's an enormous amount of work to do, and we're still at early stages. But if we're successful and are able to accelerate the timelines as we hope to do, we should be able to get to hundreds of millions of doses by the end of next year. Now, that still means the world is going to need more than one successful vaccine, which is also why this is one of 7 partnerships that we've announced around the world, and wish every success to the other candidates that are developing here. So lots to do, but clearly getting a vaccine that is safe and works and at scale is our #1 priority in terms of what we can contribute as solutions.
Okay, Emma, let's just talk about the scaling. Where do you see it being manufactured? Presumably this will need to be manufactured around the world. And where does the current manufacturing facility, where do the current manufacturing facilities exist that will allow you to scale it quick enough?
Well, we're obviously contributing the adjuvant here, and you're completely right. To get to an urgent solution here, we need not only partnerships, we also need a global approach. So in terms of the adjuvant side of things, would expect to be manufacturing in the US, Europe, potentially even the UK, but that's something that's under ongoing review at the moment, because obviously we have to prepare a degree of capacity at risk. And our goal, I'm sure with the multiple vaccines that will come forward from us and for others, to make sure that we can support access globally, initially to those that most urgently need it, the most vulnerable or indeed the most exposed, but also make sure that we have access not just to developed economies, but for some of those developing economies that are going to be very hard hit by this and often with more vulnerable healthcare systems.
Yeah, you've said you're going to be very equitable when it comes to supplying poor and richer countries. Emma, how do you plan on doing that? How will you make that work? Well,
first of all, this is a global challenge of epic proportions, and again, the world will need more than one vaccine to make sure that we can supply everybody that needs it. Our goal, obviously, this initial partnership is supported also in part by Sanofi's work with BARDA. We hope to engage as urgently as possible with global governments, but also on GSK's side, in terms of our approach across our collaborations, we do expect to donate a certain volume of our adjuvants, and we'll do this by governments and institutions that are committed to access, particularly supporting delivery in the front line. And that means that in developed markets, we'll also be pricing responsibly, as we have a good track record of doing.